And welcome to the Affordable Housing Club. Today we're talking about marketing strategies. This is following on from the last video about marketing. This is what I'm learning, so it's a little disjointed, but I was going to say this guy, Ray, that I met, he's got this business, and I said, what have you done about sales and marketing? He said, well, first of all, I'll tell you, I'm an engineer. I don't know anything about sales and marketing. I said, well, welcome to the club. He said, but in my businesses, I've had various businesses. In fact, he's dealing now with Australia, who's buying a lot of his units without all the problems he's had dealing with people in Canada. Anyway, he says, I've never been able to find any marketing company who really understands what we're trying to do. And I said, well, I hired a co-op student from business school in Waterloo to help me with my business doing heat pumps. And he was so excited. He says, oh, I've talked to my professor. He's so excited. He's told me everything to do. And Jim's old girlfriend said, Jim, what you do is you go to Instagram and you boost your reel and you'll make all kinds of money like I do. So the student said, yeah, that's what my professor said to do. Go do that. And we didn't get one phone call. Anyway, so I'm learning what the secret is. It's not about a particular
The
social
secret is
media.
having your phone number in the ad.
Yeah. So anyway, you have to look at your audiences. So again, this is summarizing this 40 pages from AI. And so the audiences they think I have, which is more or less correct, is multi-generational families. And so the focus is like, how do you address these disparate groups? Like they're not all trying to do the same thing or want the same thing. So with these groups, you emphasize keeping aging parents close, highlight independent living for adult children, that type of thing. First-time home buyers and renters, focus on affordability in desirable neighborhoods. Use social media to reach Gen Z and millennials. You're looking at downsizers, promote smaller, accessible, low-maintenance homes, emphasize staying with their existing community. Faith groups, and they threw in this community investors. Uh, Position housing as a practical local response to housing insecurity, highlight values-driven investment opportunities. Uh, so investors address capital deployment, portfolio diversification, yield stabilization, asset management, and problem solving. But don't mention the word ROI because nobody knows what it means. Okay. So you've got to look at your content for each group you're looking at. And these are words that are all new to me. User demographics, financial and regulatory benefits, digital and social platforms, sustainable lifestyle solutions, offline marketing and partnerships, and offers. Okay, what does that mean? Now I'm saying, well, let's take a look at it from the user's perspective. This is all about how a company can sell stuff, but what's the user looking at? So these are just some questions I came up with. So how can this help me? You're selling a backyard unit, Jim. What's it going to do for me? How much does it cost? Is there any profit or incentive for me to do this? Give me details. And how long does it take? Can I trust you? Who's going to guide me through this? It sounds like pretty complicated. And what guarantees are there? There's probably a dozen more questions. So AI says, well, you can really attract business with incentives. Oh, yeah. So these incentives are intended to reduce upfront costs, simplify risk, and increase certainty. As I think I mentioned to both of you, that Burlington had a 3-month program where they gave $90,000 towards an ARU and canceled it because nobody applied. Hamilton did the same thing. No one applied, but they kept it going. Anyway, these are different types of incentives. So the first one is you can give installation cost rebates. So a free install equivalent, these are just, this is nothing new. This is what a lot of marketing people do. But you can also offer being permit ready. You make sure you get the permit for the people and you give them like a credit. And the installation cost is waived when the contract is signed, within so many days or months, whatever. Then you can also give permit and design guarantee that you will, look after this for them. C, you can do a contest style incentive. You have to be kind of careful. You could win your installation contest. It's a skill based. Um, it's it's legal. You have to be careful. I remember going through with Burlington Green on having a raffle. And we had at Christmas time, we had a raffle at the Mountain Co-op store, and you had to jump through so many hoops. You had to be an accredited charity, and you had to do all this bookkeeping to satisfy CRA. And so basically, AI is recommending you don't want to get involved with that kind of a complication. So kind of keep these things simple. You can have fundraisers and housing impact events. So, what I've been doing here with my own house for 15 years is giving tours for charities, for, sustainable organizations, Ontario Sustainable, whatever it was called. I think they're out of business now, and Burlington Green. And, I never got a cent for it and never really got any business out of it. But if it's done properly, it's another tool. So, here's one backyard housing pilot event or something that's hosted by the municipality. And then you can offer event only incentives that they only get something if they show up for the open house or whatever it is. Then there's what are called psychological incentives. So then again, what the psychological incentives, this founding neighbor program, I'm a member of this email messaging called Nextdoor, where you have, the people in your neighborhood. I'm in East South Burlington. We hear what everybody's up to, and whose car got stolen, who got broke into, and are you complaining about the taxes going up? Anyway, it's you can advertise on that too, which I've tried and didn't get any sales for heat pumps. Anyway, you have these things that the first 10 to 25 bills receive locked pricing, future upgrades, showcase, blah blah blah. Then you can have a rental income guarantee for limited time, guaranteed minimum rental, lease up support, price lock again. So these are all these kind of incentives and offers you can use to lure in customers.
So the new HST rebate or tax holiday for, I'm not sure, it's just 1 year that the federal and provincial government announced last week. Would
Yep.
that impact these units as well?
Definitely. And on that note, this guy Ray says, I've got a HST consultant. That's all he does. He makes money. Typically, this is before the rebate you just talked about, the new home rebate, and it's only on new homes. It's not on resales. But anyway, now people will be eligible for it who are not just first-time buyers, but any buyer of a new home. Anyway, without that, which could be 150,000, I think max, this consultant gives people on average $27,000 rebate, more like for builders and contractors. A lot of people like me, when I built this house, I didn't get a cent because it's a brand new house. It's all eco-friendly and all this stuff. Not a dime. Whereas I've been selling people heat pumps, $7,000, $8,000 heat pumps they get for free with the rebate. Anyway, this guy gets an average of $27,000 HST refund, and he takes 10%. So everybody's happy. So I didn't know about consultants like that. So it can be a big savings from the seller's end. Um,
Is it only for a year, Jim?
I think so.
So that should
Yeah, I
spur
guess.
something that for this year anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is that if you start now in the building permit process, you'll be lucky to have the building done by the time the year has passed.
Well,
Um,
when does that matter? Is it when you spend the money or is it based on substantial completion?
Well, it's a rebate,
well,
so you have to
it's
build it.
yep, you have to build it and have already paid for it and prove that you paid for it. And then
But
that HST consultant is going to chase the HST all the way down the stream, not for the guy that's doing the building, but the supplier of the lumber, and then he'd go back to the suppliers of the lumber, and so on. So that's where he makes his money is trickling back down through the ranks of people who would be entitled to that HST rebate.
so I have a builder that says when he buys a lot, it's an average of about 4 months before he can put a shovel in the ground. four
Yep,
months
that's exactly what I'm saying.
of paperwork. So he's, he's trying to buy a lot in April so he can start in the middle of summer. Like he's already building a house that will take him till probably June, July to finish, and then he'll have this other one ready to go.
So this you're not up to speed with these ARUs or ADUs. They can have them done within a couple of months. So they fast track it. While they're applying for the permit, they're building it in the factory. So as soon as they get the permit, it's delivered and installed the next week. Anyway, you can
Now
talk to
that's a
this
two
Ray. I'd like to meet with him.
that's a two that's a two-layer building permit process. So the building itself is certified at the factory level. So it already has a permit when it gets to the site. But now you need a site permit that allows for the erection of the building. Um,
I don't have the details, but this guy does. Anyway, just to summarize,
yeah.
these are these incentives you can offer to get customers. So let's not worry about how and when it gets built. So then I
Well,
looked at
okay. So what you're doing is shifting the risk from the purchaser to the builder.
uh, well, maybe. And anyway, you could go to his website. It's called flexobuild.com, and it explains their timing and construction
Yeah,
approaches.
but I'm talking about your presentation right here when you're saying you can offer all these things, marketing incentives and so on. That's not his program, right?
Correct.
This is your program you're talking
Yes.
about. Okay, so each one of those involves a significant portion of risk. And what you're doing is taking the risk onto the person who's doing the build. That's who's taking
Oh,
the risk
yes,
in that
yes.
case.
Okay. Yeah. When you're like permit and zoning guarantee, that kind of stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
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 whether
what happens if you don't get a permit, or what happens if you don't get zoning approval? Does that mean that any money that you've got paid for doing all that work is down the drain? Sure sounds like it.
well, they probably got a legal agreement that leaves them scot free.
So
I don't.
Well, no, not if they're taking.
Jim, what was that website? Flexobuild.com?
Yeah.
FELEXO build?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a guy that's sort of ahead of the curve that's doing this now.
Yeah. So I met with him he came here Tuesday.
What's his
Of
name?
this actually, Ray Joncas, Joncas. He's on the invite list. You'll see his email if you want to email. Okay, so I looked at websites. I thought websites were the be all and the end all. Well, they're hardly a thought when you want to sell these backyard units, because that's not where you start with a website. And I've been criticized that I don't have a flashy website because I did it myself. And Vishva, who's a website designer, has been promising me for 5 years to fix it up, and he redrafted it all and then dropped it and didn't give me the sign-on credentials. But anyway, website isn't the solution in itself. So again, if you got a website that's trying to only give one message, you'll only get certain people listening to it. So you've got to divide it into different groups. So I actually, after I did this slide, I asked AI, well, what should be the menu on a website? So let me so here it is. So you need a home page, then one called solutions. And here's a new buzzword for you: lanes, marketing lanes. You ever heard of that? I never heard of marketing lanes. I never heard of boosting a
Not
reel,
really, no.
but I'm learning. So you're going to boost your reel in the marketing lane, audience lanes. So the lanes are just your different groups, your different audiences. And these lanes are homeowners, faith communities, investors, municipal partners. Then you have another page for designs and pricing. So you want it homeowner forward, keep investor ROI off this page. So say, don't ever mention that term ROI and how it works. So you get more details for the engineering type people. Resources where you can find out more information, FAQ, guides, updates. To me, you should have a kind of a gallery of jobs you've done. Anyway, and then an about and contact, book a call. So then I went back to AI and I said, well, this is all kind of confusing. Can you give me a step-by-step flow chart as to what to do? Sure, we can do that. So we've grouped flow charts into 5 components, and for every lane, you have different details under these 5 components. So I'm just going to go through briefly because I'm not finished and I still don't understand it. So the first one is awareness. So for multi-generational families, you've got to look at local social and neighborhood groups, referrals from contractors and realtors. And then you have to look at interest. And I didn't copy and paste, the sub headings here. Then there's consideration, whatever that means. Usually that means money, but I'm not sure what it means. Conversion, that's where you got the fish on the hook and now you reel them in, I guess. You convert them to be a customer from a viewer. And then onboarding and advocacy, whatever that means. That's what you do to market your products. I have to take this with a grain of salt. So that's as far as I got on this slideshow. So, yeah, let me just.
It sounds like there's just a bunch of buzzwords there.
It does.
So Jim, okay, finish up.
Well, so I'm pursuing this. I think I'm going to be talking to this guy. He's going to give me a quote for my backyard unit. And I said, look, I'm not in any rush. I don't need it done in 2 months because I want to make sure it's done properly. So I'll let you know how it goes. And thank you for joining this meeting. Bye for now.